Good morning, everybody. David here again. Time for another video of me in my bathrobe. Today I want to talk about a very problematic subject that has no real reason to be a problem, and that's fluency. What is fluency? What do we mean when we say, are you fluent in something? Well, it turns out that's not such an easy question to answer. Many people have very different concepts of fluency and what it means. I'd like to get rid of some concepts that are not helpful today. In particular, I want to talk about four things: accent, perfection, complexity, and speed. None of which has anything really to do with fluency, and a couple of which actually get in the way if you're not careful. Can actually make you less fluent. So the first thing is accent. We don't have to spend a lot of time on that. Does accent have to do with fluency? Not at all. People just don't want to have a foreign accent. And we all have accents, right? I have an American accent, a generic American accent, because I'm a generic American, apparently. I have no problem with that. I also really don't have a problem with the fact that mam tudi na glas takrat, ko govorim slovensko. In ga bom vedno imel. Do zadnjega dne mojega življenja ga bom imel. To vem in mi ni problem. Okay? So if it's simply, it doesn't matter whether you sound native or not. That's nothing to do with the fluency of your speaking. Now, there is an aspect of it that is connected to fluency, and that is enunciation. Okay? So do you actually pronounce clearly? If you do, you can communicate fluently. But it does not matter if you have an accent. What matters is that you speak clearly. Okay? So the second thing I mentioned was perfection. This one is a huge one. Especially, I've noticed it a lot among my own students here. I gotta be perfect. No mistakes. First of all, let's admit that native speakers make mistakes. Okay? Now, they make them natively. So that is kind of a different thing. And sometimes we can make funny mistakes, and we have to be able to laugh at ourselves at those times. But perfection is not required for fluency. That's why we have two different words for it. A perfect speaker, I guess, doesn't really exist. Fluent speakers are all over the place. Okay? So it's not perfection you need, it's clarity. Are you a good communicator? Do you get your message across? Okay? And if you do, you're communicating fluently, even if here and there you use dovršnega namesto nedovršnega. I hate your dovršni, nedovršni glagoli. We're not going to talk about that today because I just get upset. The third thing I mentioned, complexity. Here's a nice one. This is kind of for people like me. I love complex words, and I love to learn things. I know words in Slovene that nobody uses, like malo važevati and all kinds. Just all kinds of things. Oveko večiti. They're great words, right? But how often do you use them? I'll give you an example in English. If you want to use poslabšati in English, okay? Well, there's different ways to say that. The first one is simply narediti slabšega, to make something worse, right? And that's the one we use most all the time. Don't do that. You'll just make the problem worse. So it's very simple, all right? We also have a slightly fancier word, which is to take worse, slabše, and make it into a verb, to worsen, all right? And I might say that'll just worsen the problem. It's a little bit fancier, but I might say that. And then, of course, we have exacerbate. Now, that's a great $5 word, but how often are you going to use it? Don't do that. You'll just exacerbate the problem. Well, you can say that, but you don't want to say it very often or you start to sound a little strange, okay? So this is complexity, and a lot of people think the more complexity they can build into their vocabulary and their speaking, the better they sound. It's not necessarily true at all. What's better than complexity? Naturalness. Learn to speak naturally and not to try and force big words and fancy phrases, and you will communicate fluently, not absurdly. Okay? And that's something I need to learn sometimes too. All right, and finally, Speed. There's a lot of native speakers who speak their language really fast. I know a lot of you Steinerci. You can really just, it's like a machine gun. I don't know how you sklanjati and spregati that fast. It's crazy. But speed also has nothing to do with fluency, and if you speak too fast, you can interfere with fluency, even if you speak correctly. Right? Why? Because if you speak really fast all the time, it's so much content that people get tired of trying to follow you. And it becomes a burden. And as soon as communication becomes a burden, I don't think you can call it fluent. So it is not speed, but continuity that we need. What does that mean? You can speak slowly. Continuity is when you don't have a lot of long pauses. Okay? You don't spend a lot of time looking for words so that the listener has to sit there and wait for you. But speaking slowly can actually be very effective and can capture people's attention, while speaking fast can distract them and become a burden. So these are 4 things that I think are misunderstood about fluency. So what is fluency? Fluency to me is minimal effort on the part of the listener. The listener understands what you're saying and is focused on what you're saying, on the content of what you're saying, instead of on how you're saying it. Okay? You're not distracting them from your communication by the way you speak. So what do you need for that? Continuity, naturalness, clarity, and good enunciation. And all of us are capable of achieving that in our language learning. So let's not hear any more about, I'm not fluent. You can be fluent soon enough if you define fluency correctly. That's it for today. See you next time.